have you been doing with FOSS?
I've been the secretary, I've been the treasurer of the organization. Not very successful so far, but yes, I've been the treasurer. And what I'm doing basically, I'm knowing everybody within it to do stuff in the wildlife area and organizing clean up. And I run my own website on the park and with some emphasis on the wildlife area, yes.
So how do you find working with others in Friends of the Park?
Relatively easy. Of course, everybody has got his own mood, his own off days. Me, first of all, and so present group of people, small group of people, as a part of us, people that know each other, we get along well, we do practical things, and we do that in good spirit, not without any special agenda or purpose.
So how do you see FOSS helping local people?
Well, the several scientific studies correlated the presence of green space in densely populated area with a less incident of mental illness, a decrease in violence, and a general increase in the well-being of the people living around. Certainly that we do. In addition to that, the park is actually used by quite a lot of people, especially local community. Sometimes, if you go in summer, you can see areas of the park where the Turkish women have collectively sit down all afternoon, collectively eating. On the other end of the park, you can see the South American girls practicing in on their dance and stuff, people playing football, so that's quite, yes, it's actually, in spite of the fact that it's small, the rate is actually quite huge, without, of course, talking about the involvement of the schools that does this tournament and stuff like that, and the park is quite well used. I personally, I like strolling in the park, as I said, I sit down in the wildlife area from time to time and sitting there and enjoy the feeling of being in the countryside and forgetting I'm in an oasis. I'm on a concrete desert.
So if you could have your way, what one thing would you see happen in the park?
Oh, the development of the wildlife area, certainly. The saving of this piece of land has been short of a miracle. And I would like certainly to see incorporated in the park in a proper way with Arbery Street to be transformed into a proper street.
So what's your joy in the park?
It's mainly to do, we see a bit of green place in front of my place when I got out of the house, but also I like the wildlife area, especially in summer. It's nice to sit down over there and rest and just do it like you. One is in the countryside with all the birds, all the animals and stuff. It's quite relaxing, quite good for the soul.
So what kind of wildlife is there in the park?
There's actually a surprisingly large amount of wildlife, mostly due to the fact that in spite of being a pocket-sized park, he has a wildlife area. Being not too, in the course of the years, has not been too damaged. Was incredibly thick human presence, density of human presence living around the park. So we got foxes, we got a very large number of birds, quite a lot of number of insects as a consequence of a fairly large selection of plants, or ruderals, and plants in the wildlife area.
So what species of birds do we have?
We have, the last count, I think, in the species list of Compali, we had 23 different species of birds, of which around 17, 18 are permanent birds and the other transitory. From tits to crows to occasional visitor like jays or woodpeckers.
So what are the rarest birds you've seen in
Uh,
the park?
the rarest one I've seen, I think it was also is not counted one, almost one of the species, sparrowhawk.
When was that, Serge?
Sparrowhawk, it was a common sight in the in the early 2000s, sorry, in the early 2000s. And this has actually seen quite a lot of people. I've seen it myself. But eventually I found out that it was an escapee from a guy that was keeping it in Wendover. It's one of the blocks surrounding the park. But nonetheless, it was for a while a resident of the wildlife area. There are also some parakeets that occasionally nest in the wildlife area. So probably the two most exotic type of animals I've seen.
So what about mammals?
Bats, certainly. Also, they're not resident in the area, they're common visitors in summer because the number of bats. One thing, however, we missed, we got voles. Voles, yes, also not permanent staying. Squirrel, foxes. Yeah, just about a permanent resident of foxes. I think they missed in the area only once or twice in all these years, since the park at least had been created. And one thing we never managed, I always wanted to but I never managed to get is hedgehogs. Given time, he oppositely infiltrate. Maybe through the green links I've been talking about recently.
So what invertebrates do we have?
There's quite a lot of invertebrates. You can see the provisory list on the species list we got. I think the last count was around 30 or 40 different species, but they vary considerably for the season. Comprise a number of arthropods like millipedes and centipedes, plus we got a fairly large amount of insects, including vouchers and lesser stag beetles. Stag beetle, unfortunately, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm really hoping we made a good environment for them to develop. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of these years we still have a colony of them as well. Plus, quite a lot of diptera, flies, and wasps. No wild bees, but I think, yeah, we got a problem with health and safety and stuff like that. But certainly good selection. And several butterflies, don't forget. Roughly, I think around 10 species of butterflies and moths.
So what's the rarest butterfly we had?
Oh, we got red admirals. Red admirals, yes. That's since the rare one we had.
So what have you done to encourage this, the amount of wildlife in the park? What's been your role?
Well, I try to protect the wildlife areas, to incorporate the wildlife area in the park, that is now has happened, and to try not to have that use as a garden or dependence of the park. As time it was difficult. The time has been quite difficult. The other thing I've done is that with other people I always try to do periodic events. I used to hang papers and notice telling people not to put rubbish, publicize giving leaflets around. I produced myself publicizing the fact I was cleaning, try to involve other people and so on and so on. When just about was the only person that was giving those, but nonetheless, little by little, wherever I was involved going to meeting with space or talking to other people that were involved in some of the aspects of the park, or talking to anybody who would listen and would stress the importance of the wildlife. we are all in it together. In a physical matter, we live in the same place, so we got the same finality. So in a way, everybody does what they can. I do.